Team Rubicon is a disaster response organization. We're voluntary. I'm a volunteer leader, and have been since 2015. What we do across the country, we have about 150,000 volunteers. We come in after tornadoes, fires, floods, and we clean up. Here, it tends to be, unfortunately, fire cleanup, and we have a Sawyer program for that. I am a chainsaw instructor 1 under that Sawyer program. We have very specific rules and regulations for running chainsaws, and we have a heavy equipment program as well, because it's a volunteer organization and people get out and do this stuff once a year or so. Sometimes people think that we're a little over the top when it comes to safety, but that is a primary reason, because we have people who have never ever touched a saw before in their lives. However, you don't need a lot of equipment to be safer when you're running a chainsaw. You really don't. You all right now have the biggest piece of equipment that you need to run a chainsaw safely. And what is that?
Your brain.
That's right, right here. What's in your head is your number one piece of safety equipment. With a spinning chain of death in your hands, almost always the right thing to do when something goes wrong with a chainsaw is to put the chain brake on and step back. Now, on top of that, in order to make sure this is working correctly, there's a few things you should be doing. 1, you should get a decent night's sleep. A decent night's sleep will help you think better. 2, you should eat a decent meal. 3, you should be well hydrated. Water is huge when you're running a saw. I've got this big water bottle. I carry it with me when I'm running a saw. I am constantly stopping and drinking because you are sweating like crazy when you're running a saw. You also want to think about whether you're in the right emotional space to be running a chainsaw before you pick one up. Just a thought, if you're really angry at your spouse, maybe wait a day. One thing we require everyone who runs a saw to have is decent boots. These are not my Sawyer boots, but for basic saw 1, we just require decent boots. These are hiking boots, and long pants. We never allow anyone on any Team Rubicon operation in shorts. It's just a bad idea. I highly recommend chaps. Yes, they're hot. Yes, they're heavy, but they can save your life. If the chain is on the chainsaw, we're wearing gloves. Any sturdy glove, high dexterity type glove is a preferred one, whatever fits your hand well. Safety glasses, we require safety glasses. They can just be the ones you get from Harbor Freight for $3. We require a full helmet with ear defenders and a face shield. And one of the reasons is it only takes a small 1-inch diameter branch to drop from 30 feet over your head and hit you to knock you out. Right? We also don't allow any kind of ball cap underneath these, because guess what that button does? If a branch comes down on your head and hits that button, it goes right into the area where your plates grow together as a child, and it can kill you. It's not good. If you're going to wear something under your helmet, make sure it's something thin, like a bandana. Those are great. Or a thin wool cap. Those kinds of things should go under helmets. Ball caps should not. One of the things that we require as a safety thing is your scrunch. A correctly tightened chain is a safer chain. If it's too loose, you can throw it. Right? If it's too tight, you're putting off a lot of wear and tear on your saw. You can burn out your clutch doing that. Along with that, a properly sharpened chain is a safer chainsaw as well. When you don't have a properly sharpened saw, one of the things I see a lot as a chainsaw instructor, they'll pick up the saw, and especially as the chain gets dull, this thumb starts slipping up here. Right? You get that? You don't have it wrapped around the handle. This is critical for safety, because if your thumb is up here and the saw kicks back you might slip off and not activate that chain brake. If you have that thumb wrapped around when the saw kicks back, it's much more likely that you'll activate that chain brake before it hits your head. That's something that we're really strict about, is keeping saws sharp, because if your chainsaw is sharp, you're having to put a lot less force into your saw, and you're not going to slip your thumb up as bad. Something else I should mention as far as safety goes, almost every chainsaw in the US is a right-hand saw only. Some of you who are ambidextrous, like my husband, drives me crazy. He switches back and forth. You shouldn't do that. And why is that? Because to properly and safely operate a chainsaw, you should be standing as far away from the spinning chain of death as you can. You shouldn't operate one here between your legs. You should be standing off to the side. That's where you're safer, because when that saw kicks back, or say you hit a rock inside, trees grow around a rock. You hit that rock, up the saw comes. If you're off to the side, maybe it takes out your shoulder, it doesn't take out your head. One of the things that we do in Team Rubicon is we don't operate by ourselves. We operate in teams. We have a sawyer and a spotter, always. I highly recommend that you have someone nearby when you're running a saw, because running a chainsaw is inherently dangerous. We also require all our people to carry blood stop kits. We've put tourniquets now in all our safety kits in our cars, because it is so easy now for a hospital to save a limb if you stop your bleeding. Get a tourniquet. Learn how to use it correctly. I'm not going to show you. I'm not a medical professional. I recently took a Stop the Bleed course down at Bitterroot Health at the hospital. It was free. Our kits have a lot of other stuff in here, but the other thing is a pressure bandage, just a large bandage that's supposed to clamp down on a wound tightly. We also have eye wash in all of our kits. Other things that we require: a whistle. We work in teams. You have to have a way to tell everybody to stop work. A couple other little tiny tips that I can add. Like I said, keeping the thumb wrapped is really important. If this is running, both hands should be on your saw. One of the things that I highly recommend before you start sawing is making sure that all the gear on your chainsaw is working correctly. Is your chain brake working correctly? Do you have a chain brake? If you're running a saw these days without a chain brake, maybe it's time to upgrade. Just a thought. For example, the springs in these steel saws and in a lot of the others are awesome. They will soak up so much of the vibration, and it's so much less effort. Make sure your trigger lockout is working correctly. If you have vibration control, romp on your saw a little. Make sure that those springs aren't broken. As these tools age, those vibrations do add up over the years, and eventually you're going to get metal fatigue, and you might have to replace some parts. You might have to do some deep cleaning. A couple other little minor things for safety-wise. In Team Rubicon, we never take more than 2 steps before activating the chain brake. Personally, I rarely take more than 1 step before activating my chain brake. It just doesn't take that much effort to put this thing on and off. And then one of the biggest safety things I see is fatigue. Stop. Take a drink. Take a break. Keeping this arm long, pivoting as much as you can rather than doing this will reduce your fatigue a lot. Using proper mechanics. Other than that, don't lean over like this all the time. You'll kill your back. All of these things can reduce your fatigue and therefore make you safer. Thank you very much for listening to me. I appreciate it.